the broader strategic mission to build Umkhonto weSizwe as a movement, and not a small political party. This arises from the objective appreciation that unless and until the MK leads a broader movement, our hegemony will not be thoroughly exerted across all spheres of society. Provincial, regional, sub-regional, and world structures of Umkhonto weSizwe must identify, characterize, and build sound relationships with all major black organizations, formations, and societies, inclusive of religious institutions, civic organizations, civil society formations, and all structures where our people are organized. The Umkhonto weSizwe National High Command also began the process to politically and ideologically characterize all political parties and formations in South Africa in order to develop a clear view as to how do we relate with the existing political parties. In broad terms, there are political parties that we categorize in the camp of enemy forces. There are parties that we categorize in the camp of contested opponents, not enemies. There's a difference between enemy forces and opponents. With an enemy, you don't engage. With an opponent, you can engage with a view that you can have a common perspective on some of the issues. And then, of course, there are political parties that are there for the sake of being there, but they do not have any potential to could win any political power, even at the local state level. And our characterization, we should state this, of the former liberation movement, the ANC, is that it remains a contested opponent, not an enemy force yet, despite its current ideological and political disposition and its current alliance with the enemy forces. That is our characterization of the former liberation movement, that the former liberation movement is a contested opponent despite its relationship and alliance with enemy forces. That majority of black political formations in South Africa are potential strategic allies to Umkhonto weSizwe, as they largely advocate for policies and political positions similar to those of Umkhonto weSizwe. Our characterization of the domestic balance of forces as Umkhonto weSizwe is that currently the balance of forces are in favor of the forces of progressive change as led by Umkhonto weSizwe. We maintain firmly that the results announced following the 2024 general elections do not represent the will of the people. We also believe that the so-called government of national unity does not reflect the will of the people. These logical observations, alongside empirical evidence at our disposal, continue to inspire and guide our legal challenge to the announced election results, which we believe do not reflect the true democratic choice of the people. And for that function, we are going to take the challenge of the 2024 election results to even international courts if the domestic courts are not going to thoroughly and fairly deal with that. We believe that Umkhonto weSizwe is in a pole position to lead and unite all progressive forces into common political program aimed at achieving total liberation and emancipation. Guided our principles of unity, Ubuntu, Pan-Africanism, honesty and respect, the MK is confident that it will forge the necessary strategic and tactical alliances to safeguard our revolutionary and popular path to state power. In terms of the regional and continental relations, the National High Command is resolved to deepen our engagement with the revolutionary movements and governments across the African continent, including the Polisario Front, which is from Western Sahara, and countries, the progressive countries in the Sahel region of the continent, also to deepen our relationships with the people and the government of the Democratic Republic of Congo, and will have engagements with all the diplomatic missions of progressive countries here that are based here in South Africa. In relation to the ongoing stalemate between Western Sahara and the Kingdom of Morocco, Mkhonto weSizwe will play an active role in seeking and mediating a permanent solution between Western Sahara and Morocco. In this regard, the Mkhonto weSizwe will engage with the Polisario Front and also engage openly with the Kingdom of Morocco to seek a permanent and lasting solution to the current impasse. We pay particular attention to the impasse between Western Sahara and the Kingdom of Morocco because the year 2025 marks exactly 50 years since the dispute over whether Western Sahara is wholly part of Morocco or an autonomous region of Morocco or an independent country or nation. President Jacob Zuma and the MK leadership will engage with all the parties involved, will also engage and visit the Kingdom of Morocco to engage with all the parties involved with the aim of bringing the permanent stability and solution to that particular region. These efforts are aimed at strengthening Pan-African solidarity, also to advance continental decolonization and continental economic integration, which should be aimed at resisting the neo-colonial and imperialist influence. The MK's analysis of the continental politics and developments are not done for the sake of it, but as a mechanism to guide concrete actions and programs which the organization must purposefully pursue. The International Relations Committee of Mkhonto weSizwe will establish focus groups which will pay detailed attention to all regions of the African continent and constantly guide the leadership on the developments in the continent. So we will have a team in Mkhonto weSizwe which will have a direct focus on what is happening in North Africa, in Central Africa, in West Africa, in East Africa, in Southern Africa, in each and every country so that we are fully aware. But also we'll have a dedicated team which is going to focus on our friends from the East in terms of what are the developments, but also going to have a dedicated focus on all the political developments in the West, because those countries even have got dedicated focus on what is happening in our own country. So we must pay attention as to what is happening in those particular countries. The National High Command congratulates the republics of Ghana and Namibia for holding successful elections and undergoing peaceful transitions of power. We celebrate the election of President Dramani Mahama as the President of Ghana, who was elected on the 7th of December 2024 and inaugurated on the 7th of January 2025. And we believe that his election will break Ghana from the chains of neocolonialism and puppetry that defined the country of Ghana under his predecessor, Nana Akufo-Addo. By all measure and standards, Nana Akufo-Addo was a colonial stooge who reversed and looked down on the spirit of Pan-Africanism as promoted by the first president of Ghana, Kwame Nkrumah. The National High Command specifically celebrates the fact that the Republic of Namibia elected its first female president, President Netumbo Nandi-Ndaitwah, Comrade Triple N. The National High Command also celebrates that the Speaker of Namibia's Parliament, Sarah Kungongelwa, is also female. The Deputy President of the Republic of Namibia, Lucia Witbooi, is also female. The Minister of Finance in Namibia, Erika Shafuda, is also female. And the overall composition of the National Executive in the Republic of Namibia has got one of the most balanced and representative cabinets in terms of female participation and representation. This represents a decisive shift in the politics of the African continent and the world, which are disproportionately dominated and controlled by males. We also appreciate the fact that the leadership of Namibia is anti-imperialist and pan-Africanist in character, which is a good development in terms of the politics of the Republic of Namibia. In our celebration of the democratically elected presidents and heads of state, we as Umkhonto weSizwe unequivocally associate with the revolutionary overthrow of and governments, particularly in the Sahel region of the African continent. We associate with and support the overthrow of neo-colonial governments in the African continent. The revolutionary overthrow of governments in Mali, Niger, Burkina Faso, and Gabon is fully embraced, and the leadership is encouraged in those countries to introduce reforms and radical changes that will break those countries from neo-colonialism and imperialism. Umkhonto weSizwe will openly and decisively associate with Mali's Assimi Goïta, Niger's Abdourahmane Tiani, Burkina Faso's Ibrahim Captain Traoré, and Gabon's Brice Oligui Nguema. Umkhonto weSizwe will associate openly and support all these anti-colonial movements in the African continent, and will take practical steps to build and solidify our relations with progressive forces in the continent and the world. Umkhonto weSizwe expressed a cautionary concern over the ideological decline over some of the former liberation movements in the continent, which some seem to be aligning with imperialist forces. Nevertheless, Umkhonto weSizwe will reach out to all former liberation movements in the African continent, inclusive of Frelimo, Chama cha Mapinduzi, SWAPO, all the liberation movements that are progressive. Umkhonto weSizwe will reach out to have those engagements. And we affirm in relation to the Democratic Republic of Congo that its sovereignty and territorial integrity must be protected. We will not associate with forces that seek to destabilize the Democratic Republic of Congo, and calling on the entire African continent to protect the sovereignty of the Democratic Republic of Congo and only foresee a democratic and peaceful transition of power, not through any form of violence. Globally, Umkhonto weSizwe recognizes that the global balance of forces is undergoing significant transformation, which is a shift from an outdated unipolar world order dominated by Western hegemony towards a more just and inclusive multipolar reality. This shift is marked by the growing influence of progressive nations and movements that advocate for sovereignty, non-alignment, and economic justice, forces which we as Umkhonto weSizwe we fully align with. In reaffirming our ideological orientation, we have resolved as Umkhonto weSizwe to actively support a multipolar global order, the de-dollarization of the global economy and international trade, and greater solidarity and economic relations amongst nations of the global south. To this end, Umkhonto weSizwe will intensify its relations with all the progressive forces, but specifically with all the countries in the BRICS plus arrangement, particularly Brazil, Russia, China, India, and all the countries that represent alternatives to the Western neo-imperialist paradigms. Umkhonto weSizwe unequivocally rejects the agenda of the traditional Western powers, particularly those who are rooted on imperialism and exploitation and militarism. The United States of America continues to exhibit an aggressive neo-colonial posture, as demonstrated and evident by its posture in supporting the Zionist state of Israel and its ongoing interference in South Africa's internal affairs. Not just interference and mischaracterization of the developments in South Africa. Umkhonto weSizwe remains vigilant in analyzing these hegemonic maneuvers and the broader implications for African sovereignty and the global South's future. The next component we're going to talk about is the policy process on Umkhonto weSizwe. Umkhonto weSizwe has agreed to constitute 8 policy work streams. So work stream 1 will be focusing on reclaiming our dignity. Work stream 2 will be on reclaiming our land and mineral resources. Work stream 3 will be on reclaiming people's power. Work stream 4 is reclaiming our economy. Work stream 5 is building our human capital and technological capability. Work stream 6 is reclaiming our spaces. Work stream 7 is reclaiming our safety and security. Work stream 8, reclaiming our sovereignty and position in Africa and the world. So these are the policy work streams which are going to be led by members of the National High Command as conveners of those work streams. But they're going to be composed of course, other members of the National High Command, members of provincial detachments, MK public representatives, representatives of the MK Youth League, Women's League, and Students Movement, also representatives of the interreligious movement that associates with MK, representatives of traditional leaders, professionals, people with disabilities, military veterans and ex-combatants, and experts in different fields. So these work streams are going to enhance and get to solidify the policy positions and draft policies that already were presented and tabled to the National High Command. And those who pay attention to this process will realize that the work streams are the pillars that are contained in Umkhonto weSizwe's People's Mandate, which was the manifesto for Umkhonto weSizwe for the 2024 general elections. Umkhonto weSizwe raises concerns about the reactionary and racially motivated narratives pushed by groups such as AfriForum